Problem solving is one of the most important skills to have in VFX. A quote by me, right now.
Very zoomed in, isn't it? Very zoomed in. Cool. I spend a lot of my time on my own and other Discords helping people with VFX related quandaries, so I thought I'd make a video about the general process of solving one. You see, every so often I see a question online that is very obvious the asker hasn't put a single bit of effort into solving it themselves. And that's fine, maybe it's because they assume it will get fixed quicker by somebody else, but realistically, the person that's going to help you solve it is going to ask you to do all that legwork anyway, along with them, so they can understand what's going wrong. And then you, the person that's asking the question, you're never going to build up that problem-solving muscle, which is a real thing, genuinely. And when you need help but no one else is around, you're kind of screwed. So, you're watching this now and you're probably going to have one of two thoughts. A, no shit, this is so obvious. Or B, but I'm so new to VFX or 3D and I don't even know where to begin when I've got an issue. Cool. If you chose A, this video isn't for you. Luckily for you, you're on YouTube and there are plenty of videos of lizards wearing hats that you can go and watch instead. And if you chose B, well, yeah, that may be true, but there's almost always ways which you can apply what you do know to help you troubleshoot your own problems, and then at least you can narrow down what is causing them. And when you do have to go to Google for help or ask someone on the internet, maybe even me, being armed with as much info as possible is going to help you solve it so much quicker. Problem solving is a thing I do on a daily basis at work as a VFX artist, so I've got a little 3-step process here. I guess people like lists, don't they? So we'll do that. And you can put that into practice next time you've got an issue with your renders, with your assets, or with your software to hopefully get you to the root of your problems. So step 1, diagnose. Step 1 is super simple. You've got a problem, so you've got to solve it. And the first thing you want to do is work out what's going wrong. It sounds obvious, because it is. But if I had a penny for every question online which looked like this...
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means.
I would have enough for a Mari license, which is to say I would have a lot of pennies. Now, diagnose doesn't mean solve. It doesn't even mean that you need to find the exact thing that's going wrong, because we'll get to that. But you do just need a direction to go in. It's often as simple as my displacement isn't working, or Mari isn't letting me paint on my model with this tool. Or it could be even a little bit more detailed, like my color looks darker in my render than it does in Substance. Usually you will do this subconsciously, but if you're not doing that, then you need to be. Don't rely on other people to do that legwork for you, because as we've discussed,
problem solving is one of the most important skills to have in VFX.
Step 2, make a checklist. The reason we need to do step 1 is because we kind of need to know what to focus on. Once you have an idea of what is wrong, then you can make a checklist of everything you can think of to help you with that issue. If you're a member of my Discord, you may have seen me already do this with other people's issues that pop up. Now, this step is very dependent on your issue, so I think the best way to demonstrate this is with an example. So here I have a render of my own over the garden wall character that I did a while ago, but something is wrong. So he looks like he's had an allergic reaction. So straight away I can do step 1. He looks too puffy. That's the diagnosis. So that means there's probably something wrong with his displacement map. Now that I've got that in mind, I can start checklisting the things that could possibly have gone wrong. So displacement map pushing out too much can mean a number of things. So I'm just going to list them all. And off the top of my head, that could be that displacement map's values are incorrect, like it's too light and it's pushing out. The displacement is just too strong overall inside of the map. It could be that the midpoint of the displacement is set up wrong, so it doesn't match with the map's midpoint displacement in the shader. Or it could be that the color space of my map is incorrect. And so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. So when I've got a mental list like that, or even better, actually write it down genuinely, I can start investigating each one at a time and see what's causing my issue. It's also just really fun when you actually write it down to cross it off. I put them on Post-it. I'm not going to show you my wall, but I've got loads of... Anyway, it's just fun to physically cross them out. The reason you want to do a checklist is because you want to narrow down where your problem lies. A displacement map going wrong could either be the texture map is incorrect, or it could be that your shading and your rendering is set up incorrectly. Now, those issues stem from very different areas, so it's different softwares usually. So if I can make sure that my texture map is fine by checking them off of my checklist, then I can focus on in just one piece of software, my renderer, so in this case Maya, rather than having to jump back and forth between the texturing program. So let's say it's another issue, like for example, you're unable to paint on your model inside of Mari. By crossing off potential lines of investigation from your list, then you can kind of narrow down what is and isn't wrong. Let's say you've checklisted and you now know for sure it's not your paint buffer and your paint tool settings. Great. Then that means it's much more likely to be your paintbrush's blending mode. Maybe that's set to clear instead of normal, or you don't have the mesh selected and you, in your paint settings, you have it to only paint on selected mesh, blah, blah. There's way too many reasons it could be a Mari, which is why you need to do a checklist. Check what it is and isn't. Anyway, this step won't for sure solve your issue, especially if you don't have a huge amount of VFX knowledge to kind of checklist against. And unfortunately, that stuff comes with experience, but it will get those little brain neuron pathway things firing in the back of your head, and it keeps you learning so that when this happens again, you start building up that experience. And it helps you improve next time a problem pops up. So now it's time for step 3. So you've either solved it realistically, or you need to seek help. So when you've gone through all your checklist, you have hopefully fixed it or exhausted everything that you can think of. If it's fixed, great, congrats. You're done with this video. You can go and watch those lizards in a hat now. If not, then that's where step 3 comes in. Now is the time to seek help. No, you haven't failed. I do this all the time, seriously. Our software is so crazily complex, especially as a build artist. Realistically, you can't know every facet of 7+ pieces of software. The great thing about VFX is how much of an online community there is, though. That can be Google, Autodesk forums, Discord, YouTube, asking a fellow student, asking somebody you work with, asking a teacher. Anyway, the list goes on. There is so much info out there, so much more than when I was at uni as well, so I am jealous. The great thing is, now that you've at least narrowed down what your issue might be when you diagnosed it and what it isn't, because hopefully you've done at least a couple of checkboxes just to make sure, you can start Googling away and you've got a much more kind of refined Google search to go for. And sometimes it can be as stupid as just a tiny little checkbox that you didn't need to tick on. Honestly, that happens to me way too often. But hopefully you've got to that answer so much quicker because you just did a little bit of legwork up front. And if you're on a Discord, let's say, for example, this really good one here that I just randomly picked for absolutely no reason, when you ask people what's wrong on there, rather than an incoherent screen grab with absolutely no context, you can tell us everything you've already tried, what you think it might be and all that jazz and what it definitely isn't. And that's the best way to ask a question, giving as much context as possible, because those people are just going to get you to do those questions anyway if you haven't done it up front. Or let's say you're asking somebody in real life, let's say you're at work, you don't piss off the person next to you because you're sat there asking them incoherent questions all the time. You've already hopefully narrowed down the issue. You've ticked off a few things it definitely isn't. And you can kind of say, hey, look, I've tried this, but I still don't know what it is. And they can be like, cool, let's concentrate on some other things. And you save both of you time, hopefully. So yeah, this info might have seemed super basic, but honestly, I wouldn't have made it if I didn't feel like it needed making. Next time you run into an issue, maybe try this 3-step plan, and even if it doesn't solve your issue, hopefully you've challenged yourself along the way and helped flex that problem-solving muscle we call a brain. Because, after all,
problem solving is one of the most important skills to have in VFX.
Cool. Till next time. Cheers. Bye.